Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and you're watching Siddharth's Diaries, and I'm Shubham Kumar, your host. And you can see on the screen that Black is in complete trouble because White has developed both of his pieces on the required diagonal and the square, through which he can actually initiate the most famous attack called the fried liver. And so, one of the most common questions that can come to your mind if you're playing with the black pieces and if you just got trapped in the situation is that how should I respond? I mean, what can I do to just to tackle the situation or to counter that fried liver perfectly? So there are n number of moves. I mean, not n number of moves. There are only few good moves that you can play at this point of time if you want to tackle. But there are n number of moves if we just want to play logically. So there are multiple moves, but there are only few good moves. And if I say precisely, there is only one proper good move through which you can perfectly counter this fried liver attack. And in this video, I'm going to discuss about that attack only. I mean, it's not an attack, but it's a counter attack. So we are going to counter that fight lever and we are going to outsmart this white opponent. Actually, white is very better and he knows multiple theories and multiple cases. We are assuming that white is a very good player and so that's why we will just act accordingly. And so let's just begin today's video. And in this video, we are going to counter this fight lever and you will learn a lot about this, guys. So watch this carefully. So let's get started. So now, guys, at this point of time, what should be the best move? Most of the players go with the h6 in order to stop this knight from coming this, but it's actually backward move, and white will have advance in the development, so it is a backward move and a passive move. So you shouldn't go for this. One more option is that you can just play a pawn to d6. Let me just go with d6. We have a knight to g5, and then you can go with a bishop to e6, trading this bishop and also neutralizing the threat. If knight takes bishop, you can simply take it with the pawn, and still the attack is actually neutralized. But there is one more threat, it is queen to f3, and now again the checkmate and threat to checkmate is again lurking here. So what should be the good move? Most of the players at this point of time usually go with the knight to f6, and after that knight comes at g5. We have pawn to d5, and now pawn takes pawn, and we have knight takes pawn at d5, and now you can see that diagonal connecting this f7 is actually blocked, and white black thinks that it's actually a good position. But guys, this is a mistake because after knight takes at d5, white can initiate the original flight lever, and I've already uploaded a video that how the original flight lever initiates is actually when knight comes at f7, then king takes knight. We have queen at this square. If king goes at this square, what can we do? We can actually go with this knight to add minimum pressure. Then black is completely lost here. Black is completely lost. And I have uploaded a full video on the explanation that how original fight lever works. So that's why this is also not good move. What else can black do? Yes, black can do one more thing. Yes, black can do one more thing, and it's the only good move. And this question, it is actually the b5 move. Yes, and again, guys, I have uploaded one more video in which I have shown that what will happen if you go with the b5 move. And in that video, I have explained what will happen if bishop takes this pawn. Yes, in that video, I have explained that what will happen if bishop takes pawn. Let me just show you the essence of this. If bishop takes pawn there, we have queen at the d5. We have attack on the g2 pawn. We are also attacking this knight, bishop also. So bishop takes knight. We have queen at this square, and now this g2 pawn is under attack. So white simply goes for a castle. Now bishop at the b7, going for direct checkmate here. So white is completely lost here. It's not complete loss, but if you just play carefully, then white has to face multiple things, multiple challenges. And I have uploaded a perfect video on the explanation what will happen if bishop takes on b5, and how should black respond after this maneuver. So we are not going on that road because I have already discussed in another video. So I will put the description in the link. In this video, we are going to understand what will happen if your opponent goes to something different. What will happen if your opponent goes something crazy and something off board? Because here the most recommended move is just to take this pawn. But what will happen if your opponent goes and take your knight instead of taking the pawn by the bishop? Then you just have to take the bishop with the pawn. And now, guys, the threat to the fight level is actually neutralized, but how should black respond after this position? So there are multiple ways through which black can respond, and all these ways we are going to discuss in this video. So let's start the video, guys, and this is the main content of video. And in this video we are going to understand what will happen if your opponent goes with something off board, and if your opponent takes the knight, then you have to just take the bishop. And from this point of time you have to be very careful. You just focus on this video, and then you will know that how black should respond. At this point of time, if you will look carefully, then you will find out that who is better. Actually, who is better? Black is better or the white is better? If you will look carefully, then white has a pawn at the c4, which is actually doing pretty good job by controlling these important squares. Black's bishop can be easily developed. Black has very good diagonal for his bishop, and it is actually good. Moreover, if you will look at the white's position, then all of his pieces are still on the back rank, minor pieces. One minor piece is which is present at g5 is not doing pretty much work. So I guess you can see that white has a positional disadvantage while black has a positional advantage. And there are two things that white can do in this scenario. First of all, white can go for a castle, which is the main line, or I guess which is the traditional way, because you know that the castling is one of the most important and basic principle of the chess. And the second thing that white can do is just to go for a queen to e2. This is also a good move because after queen e2, this pawn at e5 is also under attack, so it is quite good. And in this video, we are going to discuss each and every step, each and every case one by one. So let's just go with the first case where white actually goes for a castle here. You must have heard about the principle in chess, which says that castling is very important, and many players usually go for a short castle, or I guess they can also opt for long castle. But usually they go for a short castle in this kind of situation because the queen to d5, you know that queen is actually present at the d8, but after queen to d5, it will actually threat the g2 pawn, and then the knight at g5 will be hanging. So this is quite unbearable for white to handle. So many players tend to castle in this situation, and until and unless you are playing against a player like Sultan Khan, who rarely castles, or I guess who never castles. If you don't know who is Sultan Khan, then he is an Indian chess player who I guess who never really castle his king. He just think that his king is more safe in the center as compared to the while castling. So if you're playing against a player like Sultan Khan, then I don't think he will go for a castle. But any normal player will go for a castle in this kind of situation. What I was saying that the castling is very important in chess, but this is one of the rarest scenario. This is one of the rarest case where you can't castle. Actually, this is one of the scenario where white shouldn't castle. But since we know that this is a chess principle, so white goes for a castle. And let me show you what will happen next after white castle. So white goes for a castle here, and we were s6 hitting the knight here. Now knight can go at h3. Now knight can go at f3 also. So let's just say knight goes at f3 because after queen to d5, this diagonal will become pretty weak. So that's why knight goes at f3. What you have to do, you have to go with a pawn to e4, attacking this knight again. Now knight comes at the e5, and we have bishop at the e6. Now knight is under attack, but also knight is attacking our this pawn too. So if white goes with a knight takes at c4, white is thinking that knight is actually good. Yes, he's doing a very good job. But guys, for the black, it's actually the chance to shine. So can you guys find the best move for black? It's actually the bishop sacrifice at h2. Now king takes at h2, and now guys, what is the best move? It's actually knight comes at g4, going for a check here. Now king has many squares, you know, that king can go back, king can go at this square too, king can go at this square, king can go at h3 too. Let's say if king goes at h3, then this is a blunder because after this maneuver too, and now king has to move away. You can also go with a queen to h4, but it will just complicate things. So you can just simply take this queen, of course. So it is very good for us. So that's why king can't go at h3. If you're thinking that king can go at a g3, then queen will go at g5. And if your opponent go with a pawn to this square, you can simply go with this and blocking the pathway of your bishop and also attacking this queen too. So where can the king move at this square? Yes, king can move at this square. Now we have this maneuver on the board. So king again has to go back. And now you can see, guys, you can simply take this queen also. And after rook takes knight, there are multiple ways through which you can go for a counter attack. And this is quite good. You are just winning this position. So that's why king can't come at g3 also. So the only square left for the king is just to move even h1 or g1, but just one rank. So now comes again the best move. We have queen at the h4, we have king comes at this square, and now guys, this is a checkmate. So let's just say king doesn't go at the h1, king goes at the g1. Now again you have to go with this maneuver only. We have this square on the board, and now let's say if your opponent tries rook to e1, so that the king can escape at this square. But guys, I guess he just this is you just don't have to worry about because this pawn at f2 is now loose. You can just simply go with this square. King moves away again. You can go with this. Now king again has to move away, and then you can go with this maneuver. Now king goes this, and what can we do at this situation? You can simply go with this. After king moves away, and you can go with this, and it's actually a checkmate. You can see this is checkmate. So that's why, guys, it's actually a checkmate, and there is nothing that white can do in this kind of situation. So it is quite good. So that's why castling in this kind of situation is actually a blunder. So what will happen if white doesn't go for a castle? Yes, in this scenario, in the case number two, we are going to discuss that what will happen if white actually doesn't go for a castle but goes for something another. It can be queen to e1. It can also be a pawn to f3. But if white goes with a pawn to f3, you can simply go with the knight to pawn to s6. Now knight has to come at this square, and now you can simply go with this and then take this pawn. Then we have bishop at the b7. These are the main ideas in this trap. And I have discussed all these main lines perfectly in my previous video where we have discussed what will happen if bishop takes pawn at b5. And all these main lines are discussed perfectly. So if you want, you can just check out that video too. Just check out that video because that video is very helpful for you if you ever crossed path with any player who goes something off-board and something crazy. And after understanding all that videos, you can just outsmart your opponent perfectly. So now let's just get back, and we have queen at the e2. Now what will happen? How should black respond here? Now, queen to e2 is very good move because you know that queen to e2 is actually hitting this pawn at e5 and also controlling that e4 square. So let's see if knight jumps at e4, we can take the knight with the knight, then queen will take the knight, and it's quite a good trade for white because his knight at g5 is actually doing nothing. So it should be very good because through this maneuver he will trade our active knight at f6, and it's not good for us. So that's why Black has to be very careful in this situation. He should respond carefully, and I will show you how should Black respond if this maneuver comes. So at this point of time, the best move in this scenario is just queen to d5 because you know queen to d5 is actually protecting this pawn, is protecting this pawn too, protecting not protecting, just attacking this pawn and also attacking at g2 square. So it is a multi-purpose move. Now since g2 is under attack, so white goes for a castle here, and we have bishop comes to b6, and now black is preparing for a castle here. White goes with a knight to c3, and now our queen is under attack, so we will simply go and take this pawn. Now white has a positional disadvantage because he is lacking space in the center and also lacks the tactics to initiate the attack. The most preferable pawn break here is to play the d4 because that's the only move in this scenario through which white can have some kind of counterplay. So white goes with the d4, and guys, here comes the best move in this scenario. Goes with the bishop to b7, and now there is a threat to checkmate in one. So white has to do something about it. Now white can defend this checkmate with multiple things that white can actually go with the pawn knight to f3, and white can also push this pawn at f3. And whatever white does, you just have to stick with the main lines. And actually, I want to tell you one more time that I have explained all these things perfectly in my previous video where we have discussed pawn to f3 system case also. We have also discussed knight to f3 case, and in both the cases, black is completely winning. So we can just take any one case. Let's just take pawn to f3 if he wants to defend against the checkmate. Black goes for a castle here, and we have pawn takes pawn. Now you can see that pawn is actually forking our knight and bishop at the same time. So white is actually thinking that he has to just gain an upper hand, but it's quite annoying for the white because now the next move for black is very, very, very good because we have bishop to c5 and it's a check. So nothing can block this check. You can see if queen blocks the check, bishop will take the queen, so it won't happen. If bishop blocks the check, bishop will be taken by the bishop, so it is also not good. Now king moves away, and we have rook to e8, and now you can see this pawn can't take our knight because the pawn is pinned by the queen, so it is very devastating for our opponent if we just take our knight and then we will simply take his queen. So it won't happen now. White is completely entangled in defending the pieces, and there is no way through which white can actually counter and attack all he can do is just to defend, and you just have to focus and play good moves here. So the only option that white has is just to take the pawn at c4, and now black recaptures the pawn at e5. And there is a very good move, bishop to a6, launching a skewer at the queen and the rook at the same time. But guys, we are going for a win here. We are going to play for a checkmate. So let's just not go that way. But it's also a very good move. So black actually go with the bishop to f4, and of course we never get the chance to play this maneuver, because you can see if we go with this, then our rook will be under attack. So black goes with the rook to f5, hitting this bishop here, and now pawn comes at g3 to protect this bishop. Now, guys, at this point of time, you can actually go with the bishop to a6, and this will be a skewer at the queen and the rook at the same time. But have you guys spotted the best move in this scenario? It's actually the move through which you can give a checkmate. Yes, it's a very good move. It's a very powerful move through which you can give a checkmate. So I will wait for a 5 seconds, and so try to find out that move. It's very good move. So now let me just count for five in my mind. Okay, that much time should be enough. And now we are going for this move. First of all, we have to take the knight with the rook, and now bishop takes rook. We have what? Actually, we have queen takes pawn, and now rook takes queen, and now we have bishop takes rook, and now it actually a checkmate. Nothing is going to block this, so it is very good for us. Moreover, if you are thinking that you can directly go for this maneuver, then rook takes here, we have bishop takes here, but it won't end up a checkmate because you can see that knight can take the bishop. So you first have to neutralize this knight. So it is very good. And yes, guys, through this match, this you can actually win the game, and you can actually counter the fried liver attack perfectly. In this scenario, we have discussed what will happen if your opponent goes for a fried liver attack, and you, instead of taking the pawn here d5 with the knight, you just go with a pawn to d5, and your opponent take your knight and you take your bishop. So what you have to do at this position, and I have explained you each and everything, that how you should respond after you are you just face these kind of situations. And guys, you just have to play carefully, and you just have to understand the main lines of the attack, and everything will be in your way. That was all for today's, guys, and I'm Shubham Kumar. You're watching Children's Chess Daddies, and I will meet you in the next video with the next basic opening trap. And I guess the title for my next video will be, okay, yes, countering the fried liver in Magnus Carlsen style. Yes, in that video, let me just show you the trailer of what I will explain in that video. So in that video only, we will just discuss the same trap, but what will happen in this trap, after we go pawn to b5, we have discussed what will happen if bishop takes pawn, and now we have discussed today what will happen if pawn takes knight. But what will happen if bishop just drop back at the f1? Yes, what will happen then? How should black respond after this scenario? So in that video, this is actually a Magnus Carlsen style. So in that video, I will show you what will happen if your opponent is very tricky and he will go back to the bishop f1. So how will you respond? So we will cover that part in the later video. So I will meet you in the next video with this analysis, with what will happen if bishop comes to f1. So till then, take care.